Hey everybody, this is Thor's Doctor here. I'm a full Resto Druid in the classic era server White Mane. What I'd like to talk about today are healing talents for in-game content at level 60. And in my experience, what builds are probably the best, um, and maybe some other builds that you could find useful in some niche situations. But since Fresh is launching in a day, I figured some people might find interest in this video, and hopefully this helps somebody out. Anyways, so let's go over talents. There's a few popular builds. There's Deep Resto with Swiftmend. There's Moonglow, and there's a couple iterations of Moonglow. And then there's the Regrowth build. And I'm not mentioning Heart of the Wild because you have dual spec and Fresh. And there's no you don't really need to be able to flex if you can just switch specs, right? You don't need to be able to tank and heal on the same spec. Which you might as well just get on the clarity and tank, or just go full heal. Um, that's just kind of how I look. I know there's going to be people that disagree with that, but for someone that's played Heart of the Wild, it's an okay spec when you're leveling from like level 50 to 60 and you want a dungeon spam, um, and maybe you don't have access to dual spec, okay. But at level 60, you should really pick. Um, let's go into talents. Let's get into talents here. The first spec I'm going to show is your basic Moonglow spec. What this spec is great for is mana efficiency. Okay. Um, all these points are negotiable or pure preference. These are the non-negotiable talents. This is what we're going for. The Moonglow gives us essentially 9% off a lot of our abilities, such as Healing Touch and Rejuvenation. It also reduces the mana of like Moonfire, Starfire, Rat, so you farm Mountain Grove. You have a little bit more mana. If you're PvPing, you're shifting a lot. This is a very nice talent that you're always benefiting from. And then Nature's Grace. Especially when you're playing with World Buffs, this is the most effective talent for playing with World Buffs. Because let's take away Nature's Grace. If we get a crit, we just crit. But if we have this talent, now we have a half second off all of our whatever we want to cast. Whether that's a root, whether that's a damage spell. You know, we're out in the world PvP. Or we're casting big healing touches, or casting small healing touches, and now we can snipe heals. We can save somebody quick, right? Um, if you're gonna have like 30% crit with low buffs, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But this synergizes very well. Um, so the reason I'll explain my filler points. I go nature's 1 point nature's grass just because it is a nice PO to have out in the open world. I take 4 out of 5 wrath, and then I go 5 out of 5 improved moonfire. Because when I'm farming, I like to have some wrath, and God forbid I find myself in a 1v1. I want to be able to fast cast wrath, and you're not going to notice that quite 1 second. Being capped out here. This is going to also help proc this Nature's Grace. We are going to shift a lot, so this is I think this is a mandatory talent. You're kiting, you're shifting, we are damping your class. So you need this. And then you need the extra range. Maybe in Fresh, there's no buff cap, so people might want thorns. Find some points to take it away. Maybe you take it out of here, to put it over there. I don't think it really matters too much, but I personally prefer natural shapeshifter. Let's get into the restoration tree. 5 out of 5 can come up in the wild. 5 out of 5 can feel touch, reflection, Insect Swarm. This puts us at 14 points. Now we have to decide whether we want to put a full opponent. These are all non-negotiable talents. You have the Airfloor buff, you gotta have the improved buff. Casting lots of healing touches, and you need to reduce your cast armor with healing touch. This is your MP5. On all the fights, progression, you're gonna need this. You're gonna need Insect Swarm to unlock it from nature. So I put 1 point in Nature's Focus. I don't put points in Enrage. Furor is kind of useless unless it's maxed out. It's not very reliable. And then Threat you should never put. Whether you're playing on Classic Era or you're playing Fresh, always got a 3 out of 3 Regrowth. I'm allowed on certain fights to rejuve with the buff cap, but it's 15%, and you notice the difference. With no buff cap, you're absolutely buffless. Towards the end of the game, maybe you wouldn't put 3 points here. You put the rest of these 3 points into Nature's Focus to reduce the knockback. I go back and forth, but even with this 5 out of 5, you can still get knockback. And that sucks. At least with here, when you're casting big healing touches, you're getting benefit out of this. You're always having reduced mana on your healing touches, and it doesn't fail. So it's debatable, but this is, I think, the better talent choice. 5 out of 5 Gift of Nature, 10% more healing than Nature Swiftness. This is your basic 24-27. Let's say you don't find yourself casting Rejuve, cool. Maybe you put it into there, like that. The 4% you're going to see here versus the 10% you're going to see under Rejuve, it just rubs me the wrong way. I would personally keep this right here. Absolutely. This is okay too, especially if mana's not an issue. If mana's not an issue, you might get more benefit out of that. If mana's really not an issue, maybe you do that. But this is what I find to be the most successful build that I've had. Most of my horses on Era are with this build. Alright, let's go into your Regrowth build. I played this when our guild was progressing pretty rapid and rare, and I found it okay. Super mana intensive. But essentially, what we are going to do here is we're going to look something like this. You can either do this, a 50% increase crit chance when you're regrowthing, or 40. Totally up to you. I think that's just personal preference. I do think you notice that 10%. Crit chance here. You can make the argument of taking some points out of here. Actually, I don't know if to do this. I don't take points out of here. You can take points out of here and put them into here. That's fine. But when you are moving around and you can't cast Rejuve as your best spell to use, doesn't get a knockback. Rejuvenation is like Druid's like parson spell in my opinion. Some people would argue Regrowth is, but I say it's Rejuve. I don't like this whip. I just don't like it. This gives you on-demand thirst healing. But besides that, it's super mana intensive, and if you know fights and know when damage is coming out, I think you can heal better with Rejuve Healing. This allows you to do Rejuve Healing, touch healing on longer fights, and you're not constricted to emotionally struggling to kind of pump out some heals, let's say, if no shit happens. Then again, basically, this isn't how I like to play. Again, but you drop your mana efficiency to have some crit and regrowth, and you're essentially just, maybe you're casting your 8/1 regrowth, you get your Disgrace proc to line up a big healing touch, right? Let's say if you're not casting, let's say you're not casting Rejuve for the spec, then maybe this is what you would want, how you would want it. Totally fine too. Now let's go into Swiftmend spec. So when we go deep Resto, personally, these are the talents that I think are mandatory. And why the fuck? If you're going this far out and you can't get to Nature's Grace or Moonglow, so you might as well have improved regrowth. There's not really much you can do. So if you wanted, maybe you'd do this to have some feral charge, but even then you don't have enough points to get through. So you would need that for that to work. But if you're just strictly healing, I personally would honestly want something like this. Why? Because I can go into bear form and I can dash, but I can still, shapeshifting. I'm essentially running a flag carrier spec, minus I don't have feral charge, right? So this is a good option if, hey, you like battleground healing, and for battleground healing, Swiftmend is 100% the spec to play, especially for like Arathon base and for flag running you in Swiftmend. People are just way too bursty, and you don't have to cast to keep people up, essentially. You just have, and even just hot Swiftmend, Nature's Swiftness healing type. Like, you've got so many options with this build. Let's say you're an Alterac Valley and you're just conserving mana, casting healing rank 4 healing touches, but hey, those archers aren't gonna have that much cast time pushed off with this talent right here. This is great. The biggest con to this spec is you'll notice this 9% in Moonglow, and then you don't have Nature's Grace. So if you're not playing world buffs don't really affect druids that don't have Nature's Grace. Like, yeah, because your hots can't crit. It's nice having 10% more stats, maybe some MP5 from getting world buffs, but you don't really benefit from crit unless you're casting with Human Touch or Regrowth. So, or Swiftmend crit. But this is a fun build to play however you want. Like, essentially, as long as you have Swiftmend, but by the time you get down to 31 points here, you can't go 21 points under there. You can go Vengeance Swiftmend, maybe get a little bit of damage. But this is a fun spec to play. It is totally viable. You can parse with this spec. Sometimes I play this spec in our speed runs, our next speed runs, and it can be fun. It's a little bit more mana intensive, but it can be fun. And I think especially being able to hot everybody and fresh. You know, not have to worry about pushing people's butts off. This will be a total high respect. Okay. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope this helps somebody. And if you got any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. I love Resto Druid, and I'm happy to help anybody that's got any questions. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like, subscribe if you haven't done.